Sometimes it's like notification. Says not.
Hey there, good afternoon, and welcome once again to the Sage Dialogue series. My name is Richard Joseph, and this is the third session of the many yet to come. Just a brief premise: the Sage Dialogue series is brought to you by Digital Times Africa in collaboration with AFROSEED and Sage Nigeria. Sage Nigeria is hosting the 2021 or the Sage Annual Exhibition and Awards at the OOPL Library. That's His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo's library in Abeokuta, where they would be showcasing solutions built by students to win an award and get the chance to compete at the national or the world stage platform, right? And as part of the dialogue series, as part of the Sage Entrepreneurship exhibition, we are hosting this dialogue series to further insights and see how we can co-create solutions together using dialogues. Joining me on the call is the person of Miss Treasure Ernest, who is a digital marketer and an entrepreneur, a content strategist. And today we'll be looking into the topic titled "The Next Wave: Leaders Forge Through Entrepreneurship." Basically, what this sought to do is to help us identify really how we can build the next cohort or the next generation of leaders and have them imbibe they're built up with entrepreneurship skills right from childhood, basic education up to the university level. Right. Hi, Treasure. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I am fine. Good to have you on the call.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Sorry, I was late.
Soon enough, Uchenna will be joining us, and Uchenna is a travel and tour consultant. He is the executive director at Afro Dynasty, and as soon as he joins us, we would take on the conversation from there. For now, let's go on a short break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, we're back. We just had to take a short break to make sure that everybody was on board. I can see that Uchenna has joined, Mr. Uchenna Okolu. I hope I got the name right. And I have with me in the house our favorite person from yesterday's conversation, in the presence of Mark Ann or Miss Ann Obizi. I think I got that right. Hi, Ann. How are you? I hope you can hear me. I think you're muted, so you would have to unmute yourself. Hello, Mr. Uchenna. How are you?
I'm very fine, sir. I didn't get the intro. I'm very fine. How are you today, sir?
Could you say that again?
I said I'm very fine. I didn't get the introduction, so I don't know what best to address you with.
All right, we'll get right back to that. So, on today's show, we are joined, like I mentioned earlier, we are joined by Treasure Ernest and Obizi and Mr. Uchenna Okolo. Or let me just use the word Uchenna. I think it helps me. It helps pronounce the word better. To give a brief overview, right? The Sage Nigerian partnership with AFROSEED and Digital Times has put together this conversation or dialogue series, which is targeted at adults and leaders or people within the policy enclave striving to make a positive difference on the entrepreneurship and leadership landscape in Africa. And we would be looking, or in this particular conversation, we'll be discussing, we'll look into how Africa or the African entrepreneurship ecosystem, basically exploring opportunities, or exploring the options for creating impact or creating impact through entrepreneurship, right? Or creating or impacting leaders through entrepreneurship, basically, right? And this conversation is going to run for the next 1 hour 20 minutes. I think we've done about 10 minutes already. It's going to run for the next 1 hour 20 minutes, and helping me share this insight are my guests who are well learned about the entrepreneurial and digital ecosystem. So I'd like to start with you, Emmanuel. You have quite a CV. Could you kindly walk us through what you do, being the executive director of Afro Dynasty Travels and Tour, and how your work with Sage is coming through?
I would want you to give me a name. Sorry, good afternoon, everybody, once again. I would want to address you by your first name, sir, if that's okay by you. So, and then you failed to run the introduction. But then we can move. My name is Uchenna Emmanuel.
I didn't hear you. You were saying?
I said I wanted to get your first name so I can address you properly.
My name is Richard Joseph. Sorry.
Okay, Mr. Richard.
Thank you very much.
Uchenna Emmanuel. I happen to be the Chief Executive Officer of Afro Dynasty and Tour. Afro Dynasty Travels and Tours is a leisure travels and tours company. We're into virtually group things, solo travels. I think just enjoy just help people. Time. You get? So currently we have Africa and then a very few places in the Middle East and Europe as our area of operation. And before now, I was once a Sage student. I graduated from Sage in the year 2012 as a student, and then I started mentorship. From 2012 till now, I've mentored over 1,000 high school students within the period of 6 to 7 years. And then there are lots of things that we are proud of.
Wow, interesting. You mentored over 1,000 students in the past 6 to 7 years.
No,
just for context, what does the Sage community look like? How many mentors are there?
Okay, currently in Nigeria, we have over 50 Sage mentors. And the way the Sage community works, these mentors are sent to schools to mentor them, to these young people in secondary schools, to mentor them on business development, business management, entrepreneurship as a concept, financial literacy. We bring in a lot of things into consideration when handling these students because they are very young persons and we are evident of what Sage can do to people. Our lives, our businesses, our experience prove that Sage has really done well for Nigerian youth per se. So when we go to these schools or when mentors are sent to these schools, like at some point, a mentor could be working in 5, 6 schools, and then the job description is get these young people activated, let them understand the concept of entrepreneurship, let them understand the business environment, and let them know how to build sustainable enterprises. So I believe that is what the mentorship program is all about.
Great. 50 people across Nigeria doing a work that 1,005 people should be doing, or even more. That's good. So far, so good. Good insights from what you guys are doing at Sage. Yes. Anne, how are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm fine. Thank you, Richard.
All right. Just to be clear, Anne is co-moderating the session with me.
All right.
And Anne will be moderating the session at OOP Abiyokuta for the actual competition or the exhibition and awards. Hi, Anne. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move. Let's go into it. Right. Talking about entrepreneurship and creating the next generation of entrepreneurs, leaders forged through entrepreneurs. Let's really understand what entrepreneurship or leadership really entails. Right. That's. I really want to know. You guys are leaders in your specific field. Let's have this discussion. What does entrepreneurship and leaders really entail, or leadership really entail?
Okay, so I can jump on the question, or should Treasure go first?
Feel free. And any of you who Treasure, let's hear you.
Should I go first?
Feel free.
Okay, so I think generally speaking, in the layman's term, an entrepreneur is a businessman. He is someone that is an innovator. He thinks infrastructure and stuff like that. But then I would say a leader is more of an influencer. A leader leads with his personality. He is more about grooming people, and that's the difference I think there is between an entrepreneur and a leader. But I feel like there should be a great merge between the both of them. But I'm sure that we'll get there soon. But yes, generally, this is what I think about who an entrepreneur is and who a leader is.
Okay, great. Anne, you can forge ahead.
Okay, so to add to what Treasure said, just like what we established yesterday, we said we define entrepreneurship. So from the definition of entrepreneurship, that is someone who takes the initiative to identify a problem and provide solution through products and services. So that is anyone who does that is an entrepreneur. Now, when we look at leadership, I think there's just a thin line between a leader and an entrepreneur. They are both. It takes a leader to become an entrepreneur because a leader is someone who inspires others to take action. So a leader is a person who sees a problem and decides to take the lead to create solutions to that and inspire others to achieve a common goal. When we look at entrepreneurship, who is an entrepreneur, we'll see that an entrepreneur is also someone who takes initiative and a leader is a person. So I believe for anyone to become an entrepreneur, the first major basic skill required to take that initiative is leadership. So both of them are, an entrepreneur is a leader is an entrepreneur. So I think I'm going to go with that.
Anne is back with ninja skills of dropping punchlines. Good to have you, Anne. All right. Mr. Uchina, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. So let's understand your perspective. What's the difference between a leader and entrepreneur, if there is a difference at all? Who are these two people?
I believe Anne made a very good point. But then, because I am coming from a very dialectical discipline, I might want the very few questions to understand her point better. You get, because if we are saying a leader and an entrepreneur can stand side by side, does it mean we are invariably saying that every leader is an entrepreneur? Yeah, because
Okay.
this, I
I'm
believe
loving the
this.
discussion.
I believe these
That's a
two
good
things.
question.
I believe these two things are, as much as they exist side by side, there is a dichotomy between the two of them. Whereas a
Mhm.
leader is someone who takes up responsibility and then accepts the role to be at the forefront of the affairs of others, bearing the risk and every other thing that comes with leadership. An entrepreneur goes beyond all that. You get, especially in the context of running a real life business. Because whereas a leader takes risk, a leader innovates, a leader does all this, and then same as the entrepreneur, a leader is also
Oh, so unfortunate. We lost him there. Um,
Yeah,
Anne, that's that's. I think. Anne, are you there? Oh,
I think there's a
so
network
we
glitch.
yeah. This morning we had quite a lot of internet glitches and internet challenges, and it all boils down to we need more infrastructures to be able to share content such as these, so that people can get access to easily digesting things of this nature, and it goes a long way to build that grit and that determination for people to want to do better. Um, Treasure. So
Yes, please.
Uchenna made a clear distinction there, right? Does it mean all leaders can be entrepreneurs? Right? What is your take?
Okay, so I feel like I'm going to agree a bit more with Uche because okay, so I like to go with very practical examples here. I'm not about plenty definitions. Now, an entrepreneur without any leadership skills cannot be a proper and efficient entrepreneur. Understand? I feel like it's easier to be an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, anybody can just wake up and be an entrepreneur. Just have money and have a business you want to do. But it takes a
Mhm.
leader actually to properly groom a people because you cannot have a successful business without people. And I feel like it's very
Hmm.
important for you to as an entrepreneur have leadership skills. You understand? So as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur without leadership skills, you can have people that are working for you that do not like you. They don't like how you lead. But because they are about your money, they want your money, they want you to pay them. So they have to work with you. But if they were to choose, okay, should this actually be my leader? I'm sure a lot of people do not like their bosses. And that's
I know,
majorly
right?
because they are not great leaders. And I talk from example as well. I mean, I've worked with people that I know that should not be a leader. It's just because you have money, so you're opportune, to be an entrepreneur, to own a business. So I feel like there's a big difference between being an entrepreneur and a leader. However, I feel like there should be a great merge between the both of them. I feel like every entrepreneur should strive to be a great leader. That's what makes you a successful entrepreneur.
Okay, great. I mean, you made such notable points that people sometimes follow people as a result of what they want to gain. And in terms of entrepreneurship and leadership, there's a very, very, very big divide. Although Anne says, yeah, a leader or an entrepreneur must be a leader, which is true, but not all entrepreneurs are leaders.
Leader.
We'll agree. Yeah, and Uchenna, before he dropped off the call, also made a very valuable point, and I thought I was going to get a reaction from Anne. Anne, would you still want to react to that before I move on?
I didn't fully get Uchena's perspective on the
So this is
part.
what Uchenna laid bare. So Uchenna mentioned that, well, he agreed with your point, but it had a certain level of drawback where you mentioned that entrepreneurs should be leaders. But then, are all leaders entrepreneurs, or are all entrepreneurs leaders? I mean, we all can agree that, well, there is a thin line, like you mentioned, between entrepreneurship and leadership, right? And Treasure also went ahead to mention or to talk about not all leaders are entrepreneurs. The people are leading, but they're not entrepreneurs, and not all entrepreneurs are leaders. because some people just follow people because they stand to gain something from them. Do you get it? So in the context of what you said earlier, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership, let me ask it this way: what are the qualities that differentiate a leader from an entrepreneur, or differentiate an entrepreneur from a leader?
Okay, so let me make a bit reaction to that, and then I'll state some qualities. What I said was the ideal case scenario. There's something called the ideal, and there's something called the reality, what is obtainable. Okay, the ideal entrepreneur should be someone who also have leadership qualities, but what is the reality we're facing? We see some entrepreneurs who don't think long term, they just want to do something in the midterm. So we see that there are some entrepreneurs who don't operate with a leadership mindset. But not all leaders are entrepreneurs, but I feel every entrepreneur should be a leader. Leadership is a skill that everyone should strive to. Everyone that wants to fulfill purpose and someone who wants to outlive himself should strive to embrace. And part of the qualities that make a person a leader, qualities like courage. If we check, okay, what is the ideal quality of an entrepreneur? We'll see that there's similar things. It takes courage to identify a problem and say, guys, let's do this. And that is also something that makes a leader. But the truth is, not all leaders. So we're going to first of all establish the first line, because not all leaders are entrepreneurs. There's something called intrapreneurship. So we also have people who are in an organization working, but they're expected to take initiative. So that is also leadership playing, even though you're working under your boss. That one is called entrepreneurship. Okay. So qualities. So we're seeing that there's a very thin line. So it means that everyone who wants to dive into entrepreneurship and would succeed in that field must learn how to begin to acquire leadership skills. You must learn how to begin to articulate your thoughts in a way to influence others to buy into your idea, buy into your vision, and follow your ideology. It will make you build a business that would outlive you. This is the ideal thing. So if anyone finds himself in an entrepreneurship space, the first skill you must begin to hone is leadership skills. How do I build thought leadership? Because we're not talking of yesterday we said statistics that most small businesses don't outlive the first 3 years or thereabouts. And that's because people look at it, this is the leadership skills still lacking. And that's where I kept emphasizing on knowledge yesterday. So part of the knowledge every entrepreneur should strive to get is to get leadership. So let me list some of the characteristics I feel make someone a great leader. So the first one should be vision. Every great leader is someone who has a vision, something that he believes can become a better reality for his people. Every leader has the people at heart. When we look at great leaders, we all celebrate today, like Martin Luther King. He always, the quote, "I have a dream." That is, he sees a better thing. When we look at the South African president, Mandela, they all had vision. So the second characteristic we should be looking at is courage, the ability to take initiative. Okay, despite the fact that everyone wants to stay laid back and do nothing. Yesterday, we established the fact that the government cannot do everything. So we need people who are courageous to dive in, identify a problem, and solve it. So courage is one of the characteristics of leadership. I'd also say, integrity, your ability to keep to your word. I say this, I will do this. So this one, regardless of whether you're leading in government, whether you're leading in an organization, whether you're also leading your personal business, integrity is key. We're also going to look at confidence, the ability to listen to people. A leader listens to people. I can go on and list a lot of characteristics of leader, but I've listed, I think, about 5 of them. So there should be vision, there should be courage, there should be confidence, ability to communicate, integrity, to lead with integrity. And as more coming, I'm going to also lay it bare. But if we look at them, we would see that these qualities, these characteristics I'm listing for leadership is also needed in entrepreneurship. So I'm talking about the ideal case scenario. What is the ideal thing? We know that this is not yet obtainable because most entrepreneurs have not don't have the foundational mindset, going back to knowledge. So when we begin to breed entrepreneurs who are knowledgeable, you would see that every entrepreneur should acquire leadership skills to build businesses that would outlive them and also solve problems that would bless humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Always doing the most, just laying the punchlines and arranging the things down there. Okay, Uchenna, I see you're back, and thankfully, Anne has come back to really give us the context to which she mentioned that an entrepreneur has to be a leader, right? And I can really relate to that because Treasure also mentioned if you're an entrepreneur, you have to, or because you're also going to lead people, you're going to have to work with people. And mention vision, right? You need to be able to communicate your thoughts or your ideas to people so they can work with. So yes, as an entrepreneur, you need the leadership skills. Correct. I think that's fantastic. Now, I asked Anne, or I asked a general question about what are some of the qualities that differentiate leaders from entrepreneurs. Anne has made mention as, let me hear from Treasure, then I'll come to you, Uchenna, and we can all lay bare these qualities, and then we can forge ahead. Treasure, what are the differentiating factors between a leader and an entrepreneur?
Thank you very much. I think Anna said like the very major things that a leader should have, quality of a leader.
Yeah.
I'll add two very important things I feel like every leader should have. One is the ability to work with people and getting them to do, like to follow the vision. Because like Anne said, every leader is a visionary. He has a vision that he's going to get the people to work with. But then it's also very important to know how to work with people to get the vision moving, because there are many entrepreneurs, they have what they want to do, how they want to, they have a great vision, but they're not able to get the people that they're with to work with them through it. And I feel like it's because people don't have emotional intelligence. Some people do not know how to, have interpersonal relationships. So that's a like very, very important thing. And secondly, I feel like every leader should have a business mindset, because as much as
Oh, too sad. She dropped off. Well, these are the challenges we face when we intend to create something out of the ordinary. I think there are times ahead, and some of these challenges are helping shape the dynamics for the future for us. All right, Uchenna, what are the qualities that differentiate the leader from an entrepreneur, or how at what point is there a synergy between the two?
I think because the network coverage didn't allow me finish what I had to say. So that is why it was looking as if I am on the other side of the argument from what Anne was saying. But I totally agree with what she was saying. She's
Okay.
right. You get. But there are two distinct things about these two people that we are looking at to analyze: the leader and the entrepreneur. While a leader grows people, an entrepreneur grows ideas. I don't know if you get this.
Okay, I think we all have punchline squads. We should tweet that. A leader does what? Grooms people. Entrepreneur grooms idea. Let's have that tweeted. Okay, forge ahead, sir.
A leader provides more or less a conducive environment for a business to strive. You get. If the leaders not provide good policies, conducive environments, good taxation plans, businesses would not strive. You get. But now on the other hand, the entrepreneur leverages on whatever the leader has provided to make leadership. Yeah, okay, I don't know how to put it, but indirectly,
so let me help you.
Okay.
So basically, let me be really factual and honest. So this is how I'm envisioning it, right? Talking about leaders and entrepreneurs, so leaders in a certain context that create policies or create the enabling environment for things to work, right? And now the entrepreneurs in this case might also reference what Anne talked about as entrepreneurship, because there are levels of entrepreneurship, right? Yes. Where this person comes in and is able to build off the ecosystem you've made available and make things work within the ecosystem. That's what you're driving at, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Yes. So not to cut you short, let's just be really factual, right? How can someone create an enabling environment if the person do not have such qualities that makes the person understand the climate of that enabling environment? Do you get the question?
No, I didn't get it. Sorry.
All right. And do you get my question?
Maybe if you could repeat, it will help me
Okay,
understand.
let me repeat. Right, you're talking about leaders and entrepreneurs, and I'm just basing this on what Uchenna mentioned. Right, a leader creates an enabling environment that makes things thrive, and an entrepreneur does what? Works with ideas. Fine. So these two people distinctively separated. Right, they work in silos. But if we had leaders who do not understand the entrepreneur ecosystem, right? How then can they create an enabling environment for ideas to really function or for the entrepreneurs to run with?
Okay, let me speak on that, but I'm going to draw us back a bit and then come to this. One place when Uche was speaking, and he just dropped the difference, because you asked about what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a leader. One major difference between an entrepreneur and a leader is that an entrepreneur goes into a venture with the aim of making profits. A leader, it's not really much about the profits. The profits may not be monetary terms, but an entrepreneur needs the money to keep going. So an entrepreneur wants to make profits in monetary terms, but a leader may not just be to get it in monetary terms. So an entrepreneur takes business, product, services, and then money comes in. But a leader who is not an entrepreneur may just be, oh, let's deliver the policy and create an enabling system to make it work. Okay, with that being stated, I think I always speak about in the ideal context how it should be. But when we look at it, most times it is not what is obtainable. Okay, so I feel every entrepreneur should be a leader, should acquire leadership skills. From the context Uche spoke about, where he said an entrepreneur grooms idea while a leader grooms people. I feel then when he talked about providing enabling policies for businesses to thrive, he's talking about in the context of government leadership, where we have people holding positions. Okay, and I think positional leadership is not a true leader. It's not, but even though we need positions to, create a structure around leadership for it to work, but then that's where entrepreneurs come in. Entrepreneurs work without positions. They just catch the vision and they move with it. But now imagine a system where every person is, because leadership is not, although we have some temperament and we have some personality types that have the tendency to become great leaders because they are just wired that way. But everybody can learn leadership. And if everyone learns leadership and begin to operate from the mindset of leader, whether you're having a position or whether you're not having a position, then you're going to see that things will begin to work better. Now, if you now have a position, you know that I am in this position to create enabling policies to help people. Because remember, I said it's about the mindset. Now, an entrepreneur who is a leader, and a leader who is not into business would also begin to think like an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur who does not have a position would also be thinking as a leader, what if I am in that place? So that's why it's a skill that should be inculcated. That's why we see today, we see people who are in positions, but they've not even cultivated the skills. They are just there because, someone just picks me up and then run the campaign and say, oh, take up this position, and then that person becomes a leader. When we have such people in that offices, how do you now expect them to develop policies that would help businesses thrive? So that's the issue we are facing, because you see the taxation is quite high. You see young people who are entrepreneurs, they have vision, they have courage, they want to start. But then you're afraid because when you go in, you're seeing that the policies that are being put in place are not the things to help you thrive. So how do we fix this? Everyone should begin to think like a leader. And how can everyone begin to think like a leader? The earlier leadership skills is being taught through clubs and society, through informal gathering in churches, in schools, in clubs, you're going to see that we're going to begin to groom people who have the mindset of making things work. So that is the way forward.
Wow, thank you so much, Anne. Mind you, we are on the discussion leaders forged through entrepreneurship, right? The next wave. So we are looking at the next wave of leaders forged through entrepreneurship. And Anne made a very good case for it. Uchenna, your reactions? Is it just me, or for some reason I can't hear you?
No, I can't hear him.
I think he's muted.
Okay. Whilst we wait for Mr. Ochina Emmanuel to get his audio sorted out, I'll just have a reaction from Treasure, and then we would wait on for Emmanuel to join us.
I wasn't here for a bit, so I didn't quite get where that that was about. But I think I totally agree with everything that Anne said. And in summary, I would say that every entrepreneur should strive to be a leader, because you can't really excel in that. I mean, one very important thing that she said that I really loved was that you don't wait for a position. As an entrepreneur, you just you put yourself in there and you get things done. And that's why it's important for you to have leadership skills, because when you are an entrepreneur and you have leadership skills, regardless of the policies, I mean, there are people that have made it in spite of the not enabling system that we're in as much as we hope and pray that we have better systems. But I think that the mindset is very important, knowing that as an entrepreneur, as a leader, the focus is that you have a vision. That's one. Two, you are going to run with it regardless. You're going to groom people to help you together meet up with a leader. Basically, that's what I have to say about this. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ochina, can you hear me? If you can hear, just nod. Okay, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Anne, can you hear him?
I can. Uche, maybe try check he's muted from his own end. I don't know if you can check that.
I'm not. It doesn't look like he's muted, but okay. Right before we come back to Uche, whilst we are still trying to solve these internet challenges. I'm so sorry, guys. These are some of the challenges we have we face in trying to create something out of the ordinary. Like I said earlier, we will do well to address them, hopefully. Let's get into a comment session. We have quite some nice comments of people sharing their thoughts. Mind you, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube by Stage Nigeria's platform and by Digital Times Africa platform. This conversation is brought to you by Stage Nigeria in collaboration with AFROSEED and Digital Times Africa. Okay, Gladstone. Okay, how do I put just Mr. Gladstone or Mrs. Gladstone or whoever is behind the name, right? Says great program. Thank you so much, Gladstone. Really appreciate. And then Gift Njoko says we must learn to articulate our thoughts. Oh, okay, great. I think that was to buttress the point Anne mentioned, where leaders would have to lead people, so they need to articulate their thought to share with. Okay, and then Gisu Joko come back to say thought leadership. What does it mean when we talk about thought leadership? Quite interesting. We're not diverting, it's still part of the conversation. Hi, Uchenna, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just try to say something. Let's see if you can got you set it out. You can hear me. Can you try talking? Oh, too bad. You know what? Yeah. Drop off the call and try to join again, and probably you get that sorted out. And what does it mean when we speak about thought leadership? All right. What is what does thought leadership really mean?
Thought leadership is the ability of a person to, share his thoughts and influence people through his thoughts. think up original thoughts, share it in a way and communicate it in a way people understand, and people begins to follow that people. Thought leadership is one of the most influential type of leadership, and
Yeah.
we're seeing people begin to dive into that. It is not the kind of leadership we're seeing, because a lot of people are not built up with leadership skills. They've not learned how to harness their leadership potentials in them. They find it difficult to articulate their thoughts. Now, a person who have been able to gain mastery of communication, public speaking, and writing in a way to articulate his thought, you would see that people will begin to gravitate towards that person, because when that person speaks, like other people will just begin to shout, yes, 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 that is our mind. You just said what is in my mind. That person had it in his mind, but he wasn't able to communicate it in a way that would make sense. And that's why a lot of people are scared of public speaking or writing. They'll just be like, I know it's in my heart, but I cannot say it. And it takes leadership. It's part of the skill, that it's part of the component that makes you a leader, being able to communicate effectively for people to learn. And when you see people, that's why if you look at social media, we have a lot of thought leaders who are springing up. You see them, they write content in a way, either through video or through write-up, and people can connect. There's a connection, and with that they are building influence. And there's something John Obidi is a thought leader in Nigeria. He says, with that, you're renting spaces in people's mind. You're renting spaces. So the more you are able to communicate your thoughts to people they can understand, before you know it, they begin to think like you, because you're constantly in their face with content. So that's just the concept of thought leadership. And it's the future of leadership, being able to articulate your thoughts in a way people can understand. Before you know it, you're going to gain a massive influence. That's why we have influencers. Influencers are people who are able to, we have those in the entertainment sector, but we look at the intellectual sector. There are people who bring content, intellectual content, and communicate it, demystify it in a way that is so simplified and people can understand.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we hear you now, Uchenna?
I believe you should be able to hear me now.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
finally. Welcome back alive. We were missing in action for too long. Let's hear those sweet scintillating words you have to share with us.
Okay, let's go on the rundown of what we've been discussing, so I'll know where to come in best.
Okay, so ideally, before Anne just shared a perception or perspective around thought leadership, and that worked around so well about having to be able to communicate or articulate your thought to people. And she gave an example of John Obidi, who says something quite influential, that you rent spaces in people's heart if you're able to communicate whatever it's within you to them. Initially, we are talking about the difference between leaders, and I think we wanted your reaction on that. What actually makes leadership and entrepreneurs, or at what point do they synergize?
Okay. And then we also talked about the policies. There's a way, if you could repeat that question, I think that was the place it was about to speak. The policies, I don't get that question, but maybe Richard, if you could also repeat that.
Okay. Speaking about policies, I think I was referencing the fact that we spoke about having leaders that just like you mentioned.
Yeah.
What was the quote again? Leaders what build people,
leaders,
and entrepreneurs
grow people, and
entrepreneurs grow ideas.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And bringing that into the space of creating environment or case studies that work, right? Or thriving environment. That was where you were not able to complete your statement because you were making such an amazing point. But unfortunately, the internet, you had to drop off and Anna to continue. So let's hear what you had to say about that. Let's really understand what you meant by leaders and entrepreneurs. So what leaders do against what entrepreneurs do.
Anne made mention of positional leadership. I think that is felt she didn't get my point. She felt I was talking about positional leadership. And then we tend to forget that there is a word called a business leader, which you can actually boil it down to what you talked about thought leadership. where someone has built experience, talent, passion for a particular business, and then has become an overlord in that business, that he can bring in ideas, he could make suggestions, he could answer one of the biggest problems as pertaining to that particular business venture. Such a person has not just become a leader, but also a business leader. And such a person can make up policies that can guide a particular kind of business. Let me give you, for instance, a person that has been in the travel industry for 50 years. Are you getting me?
I'm getting you.
Yeah. Now, this sort of person becomes more or less like an authority in this industry. And tomorrow, if generally tour operators, we have a problem and we feel like we need somebody to talk to, somebody whose idea is the best to take in this particular case, and we go to this particular person, automatically this person is making policies that are guiding the travels and tours industry indirectly. Are you getting me? By the single action
Getting
of
you.
we collectively as junior tour operators going to meet this person to ask for an advice or for a way out on a particular case, and he gives us the answer to that particular question, he has indirectly drawn up a policy, which in law you might call it when people use other judges' experience or decisions on a case to give insights on a new case. Now that particular insight becomes a law. Now in this case, if this particular business leader gives insights on a particular case that is already an industry problem, he becomes a lawmaker in that particular industry and also a leader. So what I was trying to say, as much as there are differences and stands where you would have to place a dichotomy between leadership and entrepreneurship, they are side by side and they are also relatively still independent. I don't know if
Okay,
you
that makes a case for it. I totally understand. So they work hand in hand, but yeah, they are totally independent as well.
Yeah, they're
right?
intertwined. Indirectly, they're intertwined.
Yeah. So great. Let's really delve into the nitty gritty of this conversation. How we can build effectual leaders through entrepreneurship. How we can forge them. Right now. And we spoke so much about education yesterday. We even did a session on education this morning, and we spoke about education, right? And we're talking about informal, formal, non-formal form of education. How can leadership be ingrained in people, or let me bring it back? Leaders forged through entrepreneurship. How can people learn leadership through entrepreneurship, especially in the case of our educational system?
It's a very.
How can
I think you need to break this very much easier so we can get the point, because I'm sensing two different questions from what you are saying.
Exactly, there are two different questions in one. that's the idea, right? So one, first and foremost, right? Non-formal education, formal and informal education has a role to play in building leaders. Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
We agree. Good. Now, entrepreneurship has its own part to play in building leaders, especially when we look into the creation of enabling environment that makes ideas thrive. Right. Now, these two platforms, how can they collage or collaborate to make sure we build effectual leaders?
Okay. How can entrepreneurship? How can we build leaders through entrepreneurship, right? If that's like a summary.
That's a summary, but
Okay.
I'm looking at especially the case of getting these people through education, because mind you, the leaders we're talking about are people in the basic school right now, or they are about to get to secondary school, or they are in the universities, right? So education plays a key role, right? So either entrepreneurship has to be taught to them, and then through entrepreneurship they learn leadership. It's all like I don't know what word to use, but it's all intertwined.
Okay. I think the first point we should get into is to teach young people about self-discovery. That is the foundation. And how do we begin to teach them about self-discovery? discovery is about them discovering their uniqueness, discovering their strengths. And this is just also knowing their weaknesses and knowing what to channel on. And this is the foundational ingredients needed to build a leader and also an entrepreneur, because you need to operate from the area of your strengths. And when you don't get to that point of understanding yourself, it becomes building on a faulty foundation. Now, how can this be inculcated in the education system? Now, I think leadership is not, it should be taught as a course. Now, the foundational, and the foundation starts from also teaching them about self-discovery, because there's a process of you understanding yourself. How do you understand? A lot of us stumbled into ourselves after we've tried up a lot of things. Nobody really gave us a model to follow to just get to that point where you know that this is what I can actually do. A lot of us kept trying different things, and we grow up in a system, in a structure where even from the family, people don't learn to embrace their strengths. You see a child, brings back the result after the term, and the parents are looking at, you failed this, you failed this. No one is looking at, oh, you did excellently well in this. How do you grow your strength in this?
Yes, beautiful.
So I feel so the place of self-discovery is the foundation, because if a child begins to know that this is my strength, then we can begin to now say, how do you channel this strength into problem solving, to solve problem for other people? Because we are built in this world to complement each other. Uche has a strength, I have my strength. Uche has his weakness, I have my, so that's the uniqueness. If young people, if teenagers, as young as they are, begin to have this mindset that I have my uniqueness, so I don't need to compete with you. And that is the problem we're facing in entrepreneurship. You would see that the future of entrepreneurship would be built on the place of complement and collaboration and the rest of it. So how do we begin to teach this? Now, schools should begin to make provision for extracurricular activities. It is very, very important. It is not leadership. We're not teaching you leadership and self-discovery for you to, at the end, right? We need to reduce the rate at which we keep emphasizing on exam. You need to pass. How can I finish? Maybe you invite me as a coach to your school to train your teenagers, and at the end, you're putting them in a box where they also need to cram what I've taught them. Maybe I define self-discovery is this, and then you, at the end of the time, you're telling them to write an exam on self-discovery and leadership. I don't think it. So we need to begin to create courses that are not to be tested by the system of exams and quiz and the rest of it. With that, it's going to create an environment where a child knows that, okay, I'm not under pressure to deliver anything. So that is to say, introduction of extracurricular activities and extracurricular curriculum.
Yeah.
Yes. So in schools, we know that their foundation, we talked about the basic education, things that are important, but schools today, I see people go, I'm not a counselor, but I know I've been able to coach. I'm into the coaching industry, coaching and personal development. I've been able to read up, attend trainings, and build myself to that place where I can train people and I can coach them to get to that point where they discover their strength and begin to channel on it. But then we also have guidance and counselors today in schools, but most guidance and counselors don't even know what they are doing in school. I'm sorry to say this. When we were in high school, the only thing they just do is they just tell you, they can't even give proper career advice. So you see a child after junior YF, the child is confused. Okay, I don't even know whether I should go to science, I should go to art, I should go to this. And then they're just like, there's no proper guidance. So we need more structured guidance and counseling for young people. We also need extracurricular activities where they can be free to express themselves and identify their strengths. With that foundation, you're building entrepreneurs, you're also building leaders. Because by the time a young person have been able to identify their strengths and identify their uniqueness, they can now think of creative solutions to solve problems. And then they can now monetize those problems, and it keeps growing. And you see that we're going to have a ripple effect of having successful entrepreneurs who are also leaders and solving problems. So I believe so that's that. Yeah.
Okay. Structured guidance, extracurricular activities, and then self-discovery. Good. Uche,
Yeah.
You have the floor, sir.
I must say I so much agree with what Anne said.
Did you say you don't
Especially,
agree?
I so much agree with what she said.
Oh, okay. I have itchy ears. I wondered how to say it, but it's fine.
Okay, I said I so much agree with what Anne said. She made
Okay,
emphasis
great.
on self-discovery, especially at a very early stage in our development.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we look at entrepreneurship, leadership, and education in Nigeria per se as a case study, I know we have people from everywhere watching this and listening to us. But let me use something that I have primary information about. If you look at the educational curriculum of the junior high school, the senior high school, these stuffs have been the same thing from
Yeah,
1960 to date. They've been
just
adjustments at some
teaching.
point, but you still see that these things are just ideas that are being recycled, and they have been for over 50 years. Seeing that these things are not bringing forth positive results. Already now, the schools are no longer bringing forth leaders. You will see a school in Nigeria whereby the motto is we train leaders here or we raise leaders here. And over 30 years, they've never raised a local government councillor or a business leader
Hmm.
or even a market leader. And then the slogan of the said institution is we raise leaders. So you ask yourself, if this curriculum that these schools are using for over 50 years is not working, why are we still here? Why are we still using this curriculum? We are looking at how entrepreneurship can raise leaders. Now you look at a child who goes into school, just like Anne says, and the child comes home with a result, and the child has maybe chemistry, physics, English failures, and then you go down to garment making, and this child has an A. But then because the system has failed to formalize the informal sector of the economy, garment making does not look like a lucrative profession. So the child would not, nobody wants to know what this child is doing in garment making that got the child an A. They all want to know why this child couldn't get a B or an A in chemistry and physics and become a medical doctor. So now this
Wow.
curriculum has proven over the years that it is no longer profitable to us. So if we must achieve raising entrepreneurs through education, then we should go down to the roots. Our curriculum for for both junior, senior high school, and even university education should be amended. A lot of things need to be worked on. Because if you look at these things, even to the level of university education, if some crafts that we define to be the informal sector of the economy is formalized, and people can go into the university and proudly stand to take a degree in paint making, to get a degree in garments making, to get a degree in shoemaking. Now, already this particular act of them getting a degree in this builds self-confidence that they are on the right track towards becoming business leaders. And if they acquire this knowledge in an environment that everybody believes, okay, because if you have a child now in Nigeria and then you see that the child is very good in carpentry or furniture making, and you send the child to maybe a furniture store to go and get skills on it, the child will believe you are doing him a wrong thing because he believes, why am I not going to school? Now you want me to be a carpenter? Meanwhile, this is where this child is good. This is where he's going to strive. This is where he's going to reach his limits. But because that particular sector of the economy is not formalized, the child feels it is lower than that of a medical doctor. I don't know if you're getting my point.
I get you totally well.
You get? So if a child feels already that, okay, I know how to make clothes, but I can't just go and start learning how to make clothes. It is not, there's no pride in being a tailor. There's no pride in being a designer. It doesn't have a swag. It's the informal sector. It's not right. Now that child will be forced to go and follow the curriculum in school that has chemistry, physics, and maths, where he doesn't know anything about. But now, if a child starts from the basics in an environment where everybody believes that this is statutory, this is let me say, if a university offers degrees in carpentry, in upholstery, a child that is growing up already from birth knows that there is a course in the university that is called carpentry and upholstery. The mindset the child will grow up with is no longer that upholstery or carpentry is the second class profession, but rather the child will grow up believing that upholstery and carpentry is normal
Profession.
as being a doctor or being a lawyer. And now the child grows up to leave SHS and enters the university and pursues what he knows that he has background knowledge of and that he's doing well in. And the child now lives. Hello? Are we here?
Yeah, I can hear you. I mean,
Okay,
yes,
and the child,
we are.
and the
We're
child
enjoying.
leaves.
We are sitting back and relaxing. So keep on shooting. Shoot your shots.
Okay, and the
bro.
child leaves school and leaves SHS and goes to the university, and then he's proud to go and take a degree in carpentry because he no longer believes, because the narrative has changed. Carpentry is no longer a second class profession. It is now the same thing as living and becoming a medical doctor. Now this child will begin from the university days, the secondary school days, to grow that mindset that he's doing what is right and he can grow in that particular profession and become a better person. And that is the way to become a business leader. That is the way to achieve entrepreneurship. That's the way to achieve leadership through entrepreneurship. Because the child comes out with a skill that he believes in, and then he employs it after school, and then he begins to grow people. He begins to work with people. Indirectly or directly, he begins to work with a team, and then this team begins to listen to him because he has the expertise and they believe in him and what he has learned in school. So you get. So I believe, just like Anne said, it all boils down to allowing these kids to self-actualize without creating barriers or delusions in their head, or should I say, or filling their heads with prejudices. Because most of us grew up with the prejudice that I'm supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer. You get? Because if I happen to go back in time, maybe I might not even have.
You would have pursued a degree in tourism, right? I guess.
Yeah, that is it. Definitely, I would have. Definitely, I would have pursued a degree in tourism, and I would be better today. I would be better, and then even without a degree in tourism, I am doing this, and then imagine what could have happened if there was a degree in tourism.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Uchenna. That's so scintillating. Like I said, we're waiting to hear your scintillating thoughts, and you've delivered massively. Mind you, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Feel free to drop your comments at the point. In the next 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to open up for the comment section, and we're going to really learn what people are talking about. It's quite an interesting one because I have quite a lot of thoughts going through my brain. At some point I feel like contributing, but no, I have much questions to ask. Right, so I'll take a pause. Oh, Treasure, welcome back. Good to have you on the call. At some point, a lady friend there had to, attend to other matters, but yeah, she's back now. Uchenna dropped so many bombs, like those are a lot of punchlines, and he's spoken about diversity, especially in the educational system, right? Can you guys hear me loud and clear?
Yes,
please.
Just to make sure we are all on the same boat, right? You spoke about diversity in the educational system and revamping education. Beautiful, right? Talking about having certain degrees. I to some extent, I think that these degrees actually exist, but maybe how they are framed. Right, maybe furniture making, for instance, can be seen as art, but it's what's called sculpture and what they have names for those kind of things. The leaning on the European way of naming things maybe is affected the child's perspective. So I remember at some point when I was going to get into the university, so there was a list of courses I could have chosen from, and I saw some courses and I'm like, what is this about? They are there, they are there, but you probably do not have the knowledge. And this, Anne rightly mentioned, they are not they are not guidance in school, so you don't know how to follow a career path or choose a career path. Totally agreeable. But now, the major point now comes back to the home, right? Because what Anne has mentioned or spoken about self-actualization, talking about parents, Uchenna also nailed the point on. I mean, it brings the ball game to what is the position of parenting in helping forge or build the next generation of leaders, right? Because from the onset, it's your parents who said it will let you understand that there are only three fields: either you are a doctor, a lawyer, or you are nothing else. I mean, I don't know what the other one is. They are professional drivers. I hear Dangote's drivers are paid in millions of Nigerian naira. I don't know. I hear, right? So there are people who have forged on this career path and are making interesting or intriguing substance, right? Now, talking about the position of parenting, how can we? Because the problem is not just the people or the next generation. The problem is also has to do with the previous generation, because they lay the foundation in so many instances for the next generation, right? If your parents is talking to you about just being a doctor, being a surgeon, or being I don't know what other. I only know about being a doctor and maybe an engineer. Those are the two. Yeah. So if that's all your parents has been brought upon you from your early growing days, what do you have? Like, how does a teacher or counselor get to change that perspective, right? Do you get my point? So
Yes, please.
let's get back to parenting and what role does parenting play here, and how can we reshape that narrative?
Um, can I talk?
Treasure, let's hear you.
Okay, I think this is something that I'm personally very passionate about. Maybe because of my personal experience and my current work. I was really focused on this, educating parents on their roles, like the part that they have to play in ensuring that a child's future is properly shaped. Because as you rightly said, I mean, before the child is exposed to the world and goes to school and all of that, it is from the home first. I mean, personally, I remember when I was in my junior secondary school, and I always knew that I was very interested in things connecting to relating with people. And so I was saying, "Oh, mom, I want to be a journalist. I want to be in the media." And they told me, "No, please, you're very intelligent. You have to be a lawyer." And I remember feeling like I don't think this is what I'm interested in. But it was insisted on me like, no, treasure, like you can actually be a lawyer, you're very smart, you're very intelligent. And I went to school, I studied law, and I realized that but this is not what I want to do. But as he said, our parents have been forward with the thought that it is just in this career that you can thrive. You can only be an exceptional leader if you're doing this particular thing. And I feel like if our parents are not educated, as much as we have people that want to emerge as leaders, this is going to be like a huge stumbling block, like huge. In my company, part of what we do is talking to parents, like having one-on-ones with them and getting them to first see the importance of letting your child decide. Most parents are so, what's the word? They're control freaks, in quotes. They feel the need to control, how the child should be and all of that. And I feel like that's something that it should even be a policy as well. Like the school should have certain structures that allows for proper like people that have the expertise. As Anne said, there are many counselors in schools that do not know what they are doing. They have no idea what they're doing, and it should be a prerequisite for you to have a school. Like you should have proper people that can actually put both the parents and the child. It should not just be the child that is going through, career counseling and all of that. It should be the parents as well. So the parents know. There are many parents that actually homeschool their children because they feel like, I mean, the school cannot offer what they need for their child, and they have what it needs. So, in that kind of situation, now, if the child is being homeschooled and the parent is not properly does not have the proper knowledge as concerning right career choices and all of that, that child is condemned to wrong career choices, wrong everything. I mean, in my life personally, I started doing what I actually wanted to do like after university, and it took fighting with my parents. Literally, like I do not want to do this. This is not what I want to do, and I had to enforce my adulthood. But it doesn't have to be so. It really doesn't have to be so. And so I feel like in every school, both secondary, university, it should should be so compulsory that both parents and children should be put through this education about what is important for a child, leadership skills, what is needed, what is the child's interest, what should actually fit the child, what is suitable for the child. That's so important. If not, like Anne said, we're going to have people come into the world that have no idea what they're doing.
Interesting. Anne, do you have a comment to share with us?
Treasure made an amazing point. It's so important. Parents have a higher role. We have parents these days. There are, I can think, two problems I think I've identified, or two challenges. Some parents are illiterate, so they don't even understand the basics of being involved in their child's education. Secondly, a lot of some parents also feel they should be in school. I don't have enough time. I need to chase money. I need to get money. So they don't have that time to really observe their kids. We see parents these days, especially we know the economy is deteriorating in Nigeria. Money needs to be made. But we see now that parents no longer have time for their kids. A lot of kids are in boarding school from primary school. So now there is no place for the parents to really understand, okay, who is my child? Even when the child comes back for holiday, they don't have that time to spend with the child. And they either push that child again to holiday lesson. And most parents have relegated some of their responsibilities to the school, and the school cannot do everything for your child. It's getting bad over the day, but I feel our generation, we can't keep complaining. Our parents have made the mistake, but we as young people who are going to be future parents, are we ready to correct some of these mistakes? What are the things we are putting in place to see that these mistakes are not being, our kids don't repeat it? Because if we move with the way we are, well, some of us, we may not push our kids to like our parents did in the past. Some parents are illiterate. They don't understand, especially if you stay in the local community. I grew up in a local environment, and I've worked with parents through what I do. And I've seen parents who, once their kids get to junior secondary school, because they did not go past, the least education they had was either primary 6 or junior secondary, so they can't reason with their kids. So they just leave their kids to do whatever they want to do. Now, you now see young people without parental guidance, and also without proper guidance in school, because the guidance and counselors don't really understand the dynamics of what to do. And then you see some of those kids are now being moved to peer pressure. So whatever their friends now, whatever they see their friends doing, that's what they now do. So there are a lot of challenges there. But I feel parenting is very important. When we begin to have parents who are now involved in the education system of their kids, to observe them, we're going to help these kids activate their potentials early enough. And we also need parents to become more educated, because it takes an educated parent. Not educated not mean just going to school, but educated in the sense of understanding the dynamics of the world. Now, in the past, it worked for our parents. The career of medicine, lawyer, accountant was what was obtainable, because there were a lot of opportunities then. There were lots of opportunities, and then they had few qualified people to go into that. So it worked in their time. But in this day and time, there are no opportunities there. So we're now looking for people to begin to create those opportunities. So we need parents to begin to, to evolve in their thinking, to read books, to understand the trends of the 21st century. When they understand that, they will be able to guide their kids properly. So they need time to study their kids, observe them. There's an adage that says, what an elder sees while sitting, a young child cannot sit even when he climbs to the tree. When parents are involved in the parenting process of observing their kids, building that relationship, they can begin to spot the strength of their kids without the kids even discovering it themselves. And as a parent, when you're able to spot it, you can now become the cheerleader of your child and say, I feel you can do this. And not because of what the society is saying, but I've studied you. I think it's going to work. It has worked for my younger, I'm not yet a parent, but I'm beginning to employ this with young people when I see them around. I remember when my younger brother was meant to, my parents are not this kind of parents where they force you and say, oh, you must do medicine, law. And then they were not also the type that will tell you, okay, I think you should go. They just leave you on your own. Whatever you figure out, just, do. So it wasn't like we were forced. But I was able to observe, before my younger brother got admission to university, I saw that this guy had this passion for animals, anything related to agriculture. I'm like, guy, are you sure you're not going to study animal science or something related to agriculture? And he's currently in final year studying agricultural economics, and it gives him joy because this is what he enjoys it. Now my younger sister too was about to get into university. She was confused, no proper guidance from school. My parents don't even care, their own is anything, just get admission. And then I've observed that over time. When she was growing up, she had this flair for young children. She wanted to play with them and the rest of it. And then I was like, babe, I think you're gonna do well as a teacher. Study either primary. There's this course called early childhood and primary education, or just anything related to education. And currently she's studying something in education line, and it gives her joy. So parenting is a skill that even as young people, we can begin to help younger teenagers around us. When you observe them, cheer them on their strength and say, okay, I feel you can do this, but give them that place to explore. And we're going to begin to change the narrative. So we don't have to become parents. We don't have to have our biological children to provide guidance. If more mentors can begin to rise up and begin to observe, we know we are all busy, but just a little time to observe younger people and then provide one or two guidance, you're going to see that it's going to help, scale up the process of whatever they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And always dropping the nuggets. Yeah, we need mentors to rise up. Beautiful. You made mention of something I really don't agree with. That is the same thing that we were fed with. What the old man sits and sees, the young lads will stand. Will stand and not see. That's why we are all chasing doctor and things.
I don't think there's anything. It's not like I believe in it in all contexts, but then I just wanted to say
adage that doesn't really apply anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't apply anywhere at
No,
all. They don't know
in a way it applies.
You only
it applies in some cases. But when you talk about mentorship,
theology,
exactly.
That's the only place that applies.
Okay, are we done with the punches?
It doesn't apply to all contexts, but if we're going to talk about it, Uche, you talked about something. You said a person who has been in the tourism industry for the past 6 years, and the younger people are having issues, and then they go back to that person. That is the place I'm talking about, because the person has experience. So one in the place is providing guidance and mentorship.
Actually be of great help.
Okay. Let's take a pause. Guys. Take a pause. Let's relax. Take a deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Okay, breathe in again and breathe out. Fine. I think I brought in the punching bag. Please, let's not destroy the punching bag. What it is that, yes, Anne made a very valid point. In so many contexts, it does apply. In so other many contexts, it doesn't apply. I for one, think that in the context of parenting, to some extent, see, some parents are so orthodox, right? And because they live all their early childhood growing up with all these adages, they tend to tell you that because they want to see you do what they want you to do. Do you get the point? That is the context I'm coming from. So yes, it does apply in so many cases, but not all the cases. And thank you very much for that point. We need mentors. We need more mentors than we need. Not everyone can be a parent. And you are learning very well. Probably you're going to give birth in the next 2 years. Who knows? Not a problem, by the way. Okay. Uche, before I get to you, let's just take a few comments, and I'll get to you for your reaction. Then we're going to round up the conversation because we have almost less than 10 minutes to go. So let's get to the comment. What are people saying? Prince Will. Okay. sometimes find it difficult pronouncing people's last names, so I'm just going to leave that part out. So Prince Will says definitely the school curriculum needs revamping, and the SAGE program runs a mentorship scheme, which is a leadership model. In addition, an entrepreneur as a risk taker can learn leadership skills by business experiences, which will be followed by reflection on what went well and the areas of improvement. Right. I think we all agree with Prince Will. What do you guys think? It does work. All right. And thankful to Sage for what they are doing. Mind you, Sage is hosting the annual Sage Entrepreneurship Exhibition and Awards, which will be happening between the 24th and 26th at the OOPL Library in Abeokuta. It's the Presidential Library in Abeokuta, hosted by the former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Let's see what else Prince Will said. The issue of parenting is interwoven with wider societal perception of what is a good career. Okay. Wow, that's good. Nanajua Kwachiwa says this is very interesting. Oh, thank you, Nanajua, for joining us all the way from, I don't know where you are, but we're happy to have you on board. Oh, Prince, why are you coming to bring this punching bag in again? Yeah, it still applies. An old man was just it's just a symbol of experience in a particular field. Yeah, okay, fine. Anne is so happy. You've made a very valid point for her. And
Exactly.
to you.
I agree with that.
Okay, now before we round up, right, Uche, what are your take on the role of parenting in building the next level or the next cohort of leaders for entrepreneurship? Let's hear your point, and I will ask the final question. It's very dicey, but let's try and limit our answers to like a minute or 2 minutes, so we have the time to round up everything perfectly well. So Uche,
So
feel free to go ahead.
So I think when we were talking about curriculum revamping, even our parents, they need reorientation. A very good number of them are still living in the world of you go to the university, you come out, you get a decent job in your field, and God has blessed you, you go do testimony in church, and that is it.
Oh
And-
my God, hallelujah.
And these things happened last 40 years ago. So our parents also need reorientation on these things. Okay, something happened when I launched my brand. When I launched, and I called my mom to tell her, okay, I'm traveling to this place. I have clients I'm supposed to execute a trip for somewhere. And then next week I'm going to Accra. Next week I'm going to here. Next one I'm going to here. My mom will always be like, I don't like this your work. I actually want you to get a job with ECOWAS or United Nations or the National Assembly, because I studied politics. So this is what she still thinks. She's like, and then the reality is there are over 1 million political science graduates that are doing absolutely nothing. And here I am trying to diversify, enter a new industry, understand the industry, and then do well in this industry. But then the least encouragement that I could get is, I'm praying for you to get a job in ECOWAS. And then let's say, for instance, and this job in ECOWAS comes, and maybe I reject it or turn it down on the basis I'm building my brand, I'm building my company. And maybe 20 years from now, I fail, which is not what I pray for. My mother will come and tell me, I told you.
The devil in the family, right?
You get no, but then they don't understand that the world is evolving. It changes every day. These things that worked 5 years ago are no longer working. When we are entering the university, they gave us options. Okay, they said if I don't, my mom was like, if you don't get law, you do political sciences. If you don't get political sciences, you do international relations. If you don't get international relations, maybe you do something else. Then nobody's actually considering what happens next after these things. And we should understand that our parents should understand that things are not really the way they used to be, and as long as things are changing, humans are equally supposed to change.
Okay.
Yeah. So because if you look at it,
okay,
are we done?
I'm listening.
Okay, if
I
you
thought
look
you were
at it,
finished.
no. If you look at it, when you leave school, for example, the measures at which people or the models for employment is no longer discipline. Also, you will see somebody with a degree in chemical engineering working in a bank as a teller officer. So why Why are parents still keen on pushing their kids into professions they know are not neither profitable, neither do they have secured futures? They don't even have anything on the table. I know somebody that is a very good linguist. She speaks very well. She speaks at least 2 different native languages, and then she's versed in about 2 other languages in Asia. Now, but this girl, she wanted to go to study linguistics, but then along the way, the parents insisted that she has to do medicine. What is she supposed to do with linguistics? When she was trying to convince them she could become an interpreter with whatever. Now these people insisted. Now she has written 3 different MBBS, and then none of them is coming through because this is not where she's supposed to be. So our parents, as much as they are involved, and the way we are suggesting that the educational curriculum needs revamping, and then Anne mentioned about mentors coming in to also help people around them. Our parents also need formal or informal reorientation, be it classes, be it subconsciously, making them like, if you're having a decent conversation with your parents, you can
Understand.
always bring these things in, expose them to the new world, expose them to things that they don't know about, let them understand that the world is changing and they need to change alongside the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uchenna. Yeah, there he goes with his nugget of wisdom again. You have does any of you have a reaction? I can hear some. Is there anything going on there?
Okay, I just
All
wanted
right.
to add something to that.
Okay, feel free. Go ahead, Treasure. You have 1 minute.
Well, if I'm to speak as a parent, every parent wants the best for their child, you understand? So, in their defense, they would say, well, I'm trying to give you the best. I'm your parent. Of course, I would not put you in the wrong. So we can excuse them for, a lack of knowledge. So I think it's also important that parents are exposed to the career opportunities available with, certain courses, because in their minds, like Uche just gave an example about someone wanting to study linguistics in school. The parents are not seeing the career opportunities available with that. I'm sure if they do, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the money that they are looking at, right? So I'm sure if they do, they'll be like, okay, that's great. Great example is me. I mean, one way I was really able to convince my parents to let me do what I want to do was because I showed them with statistics and proof. See, if I go to law school and I come out and I'm a lawyer, this is the amount that they're going to pay me as salary first. Because I just came out of law school, so no company is going to pay me about 200,000 naira for what. But with this that I'm doing right now, I can assure you that I can get this amount and more. And so with that, I was able to convince them because that's the language that they understand. Also, I explained to them the career opportunities available, as in I can grow in this and I can become this. It can give me this and this opportunities. So if parents are exposed to such knowledge, I think that will also help them and their mindset as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Treasure, for that contribution. Very well. Our time is running away so quickly that we expected it to run. It looks like that's all time will allow us. But before we forge ahead or we draw the curtains down, I was going to ask this. I'm just going to put it out there, and then we can look at it later at some other point, or my audience can get to share. Thank you so much for those who have joined us by Facebook Live or by YouTube. Our YouTube channel, both Sage and Digital Times Africa. We really appreciate you for being here. We love you. We love your support. We love that you are part of this, and we see more people jump on the bandwagon to make sure that we create these changes we want to see. All right. The final thing I was going to talk about before we wrap up is leadership. Right. What is there some form of an institution that approves the certain or that gives a qualification for a leader? Right. We spoke about leadership not being positional. Right. So what qualifies someone to be a leader? One. Secondly, are the schools positioned to be able to make such what was the word? To be able to measure, or when we take exams, what do we do? What's that thing called? To be able to examine who is more of a better leader than the other. What structures are there to measure leadership capabilities, basically? How can we tell people are becoming better leaders above others? So we can then identify how to make others become better. Do you get my point? Do you understand? We clear?
Yeah, sure, clearly.
Yeah. So definitely we need something. Anne spoke so. Let me just get back to Anne. Anne spoke so much about education and that, right? But we still need something to be able to ensure that these people are measured and they are said to be leaders. So we don't have people just waking up from their bed one day and jumping into Senate. No knowledge of the Constitution, no knowledge of anything, but they are there to make decisions or they are there to make policies for you, right? So what structures do we use to establish as a way to measure the quality of leadership? Right. Quick 1 minute because we are out of time and we have to close the session. 1 minute answers, both of you. Thank you. It looks difficult for Anne to speak for 1 minute, right? Let's hear you out.
Okay.
1 minute.
I think for now, there's really no measure to say, okay, this is a qualification. Although we have some private institutions that certify people in leadership, but I feel for positional leadership, there should be some criteria. Okay, if you are going to lead us, we need to see some criteria. These are the new things that I don't think for now there's any standard structure for if you want to compete for any contest for any political office. You just have to have the money and join a political party. I think that's all. But if we're going to put changes in place, I believe we should have structure. There should be a guideline for if you're going to contest for political offices, there should be structure on the ground or things you need to know, results you need to have achieved, and the rest of it. But apart from that, everyone should be taught to embrace, to hone their leadership abilities. I think I'm going to end with that. Everyone hone your leadership
abilities.
Thank you so
much.
But if you're going to get into a position, structure should be put in place for you to get the knowledge required for that position. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you kept it short, but a little bit long. God bless you for that. All right, Uche, let's have your comment.
So when we talk about this leadership and then what are we supposed to look out for, I would want to talk about positional leadership. I don't want to go there. It's a very. We
might not finish today. We understand.
Yes, it's a very unfriendly environment. It is going to spoil our mood and make us very pissed this evening because the whole of Africa, our positional leadership is suffering from the biggest virus ever existed to humanity. So let's.
Do we have a name for the virus yet?
No, we don't. We don't have. I don't want to call names, please.
Okay, we'll find one for it.
Yeah, there's no name yet. But now let's look at the kind of leadership we know, the kind of one we are talking about, the kind of one we want to create impact. Because for me, the other part is they can deal with whatever they want to do with it, but we're fine. Now, but this other part of leadership that affects us, that affects the next generation, I believe what we should look out for is people who can manage. Are we here? People who can manage other people better. People who can bring out the best in other people. Because the only place to see the progress or the failure of a leader is when you look at his team. If you look at the team, a leader is driving, when you see a business leader who is driving a Rolls Royce, whereas 70% of his working population is driving a motorcycle or a bicycle or even coming to work daily on foot, it means the leader has failed. He's making economic advancements only for himself, and then the team is lagging behind. But when you see a team that is doing well, in all ramifications of doing well, mentally, physically, and then economically, then you will know that there is a leader somewhere there that is doing well. So when we look at this thing, we should know that what we look at for in a leader is someone who can bring out the best out of others. You get?
All right, thank you so much. That's all time will allow us. I'm so sorry. That's all time will allow us. We have a few comments. I just have to take. Treasure, one word. How would you categorize a leader? Just one word.
Okay, so Anne and Uche have already said the two very important things. I think the last thing I would just add is your achievements as a leader. one very important thing that we should look out for before choosing one is what you've been able to achieve, regardless of the resources available to you. What have you been able to do? And then we can now measure what you can do based on what you've done so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. You kept it short and simple. Really appreciate that. And now let's get the final comment from our people joining us all the way from wherever they're joining us. Really appreciate you. We love, we enjoy your company. This dialogue has been very informative, and I'm glad to have taken part. Signal knee motion. Oh my God, beautiful. And Prince Urum says leadership engagement survey can be used to determine if leaders are delivering. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you for being with us. That's all time we'll allow. My name remains Richard Joseph, and I have been your co-moderator. But it seems that I was just more like the moderator because my co-moderator finally was, well, it's good to have had her on the call. Thank you very much, Anne, for joining. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for joining. Thank you very much, Treasure, for joining. We really appreciate you. And you've shared knowledgeable nuggets. We really thank you for that. Stick and stay with us because the Sage Dialogue series continues tomorrow, where on Friday rather, where we are going to be live at the Sage 2021 National Exhibition and Award. Do not miss out. We're going to have a fireside chat on the 26th with the former president, His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, where he's going to tell us or share experiential nuggets around how we can forge ahead building the next level or the next cohort of leaders for entrepreneurship. That's all time we allow. Like I said earlier, have a blessed day. Stay tuned for the rest of the Sage event and enjoy yourself. If you need any updates about technology in Africa, do well to visit www.digitaltimes.africa. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.